All right, morning guys. Chris Jobman, Flatlander Kennels. We're down here on the southeast corner of our property. We're running four, one's really Cheaty single, and then four just kind of Cheaty singles. And what we're working on here is this first mark out is a bridge mark. It's thrown from the land across the water to another piece of land, and we'll go get that. And then the next mark will be a right to left angle back, and you have to get in the channel and swim all the way down the channel under the arc of the bridge mark. Okay, and then he's gonna move. And then what we're doing, and sometimes I run this as singles with certain dogs, sometimes I run it as a double. And it's kind of basically a flower pot. First mark out goes left to right, it lands in some cattails. The next mark goes out, right to left, then it goes left to right, lands in the channel with some cattails. And then we got a pretty good blind out there. It's got 4 water entries to it. Some of them you can see the water, some of them you can't. And there's another blind, it's a kind of a funky send from the line here, but you come down and you got to kind of get close to my truck to get across it, in which they don't really like to do, but it's get in and it's kind of a down the shore blind. So a lot of our corrections will be here. If he does get a lot of cheating, a lot of our corrections will be in like a no here, or maybe no here, stop, handle on line, maybe a small correction. None of our corrections here will be very, very, very hard at all. So I don't want them just diving in the water, getting too watery. I don't want them stressing out about looking at tech water and that sort of thing. So a lot of our corrections will be attrition or real light pressure. We're gonna use Ruger. First thing this morning, he's a little over 2. He's an HRCH. He has 1 master pass. He's owned by Adam Nickel out in central Nebraska. So here we go with Ruger. Throwing ATBs today because we're going to throw a lot, probably repeating this a lot today. So we don't want to ruin a bunch of birds today. Ruger. And that's almost the same entry point that he's going to have on the second mark. That mark could have been thrown just a tad bit farther, but that's basically the same entry point he's going to have on the second mark down the channel. And if you get too strict on lines and cheating and burning and stuff, then they end up not marking the bird. They end up running doing the trained response instead of actually marking too. So it's a real fine line in here to keep a good balance. The water's cold first thing this morning. Sit. Sit. Ruger. No, here. Nope, here. Here. See how he jumped in the water when I did that? Here. Rethrow that, here. So now that tells me he knows better, right? So when I said no here, he came back in the water, he got in the water. Come here, sit, heel, here, sit. So now if he cheats this the same way to the right, now I'll stop him there and I'm gonna give him a collar correction, I'm gonna rethrow again. Sit. Ruger. So the dogs have done one of 2 things here. They've cheated like that, or they've gotten the channel and they want to get out early on the left and run down the left side to get to that mark. Now if he tries to get out right here like he is right there, I'm going to give him a correction. That was only a 2. That was a lot. He was a lot louder than that. Back. That was a low 2. It really was. He's a little bit of a drama queen. Because that right there, he's kind of going back to the old fall too. So we want to make sure that, I'm going to turn this down to a 1 if we have to do it again. He was trying to go back to the old fall, and he's real impatient because he's young. So that he was just going to get out and he's going to run down the bank and go get on that. Now I'm going to repeat this again. Right away. There you go. Now I want him to come back in the channel because we're going to rerun this, so I want him going back out in the channel. So we want him to come straight back in the channel. And those corrections, you got to be really careful with this tech water like this. These corrections can get, if you get too hard, you know, he's a drama queen, he's a little bit loud on that, but if you get too hard, too hot, they don't even want to look out there for a while. So they don't make good decisions. They make scared decisions instead of intelligent, free thinking decisions. It's a much different deal. And what ends up happening is if they're scared, they don't want to look out there. Their decisions are terrible. They shoot off one way or another. You know, you can't get them on land, you can't get them in the water. It just ends up being a really, really bad deal. Now I'm gonna rerun that. So what I'm gonna do here now, just because he got a correction there, he may have think that correction was too much for him. You know, he got loud, but like I said, it was a low too. But if he tries to cheat this here, I'm gonna stop and just recall without a correction at all, and I'm gonna rethrow. And make sure he's lined up real good too, so that, there we go, sit. Ruger. See how he's a little bit tentative, he's going in the water. He was thinking, he wasn't just wide open running down, he slowed down a little bit, and now he's thinking his way through this thing. Has a little conscience now instead of just being very impulsive. Setups like this are lots of repeat, there are lots of attrition. Now you have to think as a trainer and a handler, you have to think before you react with pressure. You can't get frustrated, you just got to kind of work them out, a lot of repeating. And you're going to stand, like with me right here, we'll be here all day doing this. And Nate, this first mark goes right to left, and it's kind of, you'll see a little channel right here. It's kind of over the channel, right to left, outside the channel in the cattails. And if you get a dog that's real water heavy and real nervous, a lot of times they won't find this mark because they want to stay in this little channel, because we just taught them to stay in the channel here. And his mark left to right is kind of just right off the old fall of his first mark here. Heel. Heel, buddy. Heel. Sit. Sit. All right, I'm going to line him up on the go bird will be the right mark, so I'm going to line him up there, and I'm just going to let him turn his head for this one and this one, and I'm going to keep him lined up on that one. Double. Ruger. We're, you know, teaching him to angle in through this deal, angle in through all the water, find the mark. Like I said, he's just a little over 2. He's doing a really nice job. Lots of teaching and learning on this thing. Come on. Heel. Heel. Here. Where's that mark at? There's that mark. Good. Sit. Where's that mark? Ruger. This is real easy to cheat on this too. If you have a dog that hugs the gun, that's a good move right there. If you have a dog that hugs the gun, they get close to the gun, they get on that land, and it makes them really hard for them to get off that land, back out in the water and find this mark. That was a really, really nice job. Super nice. Now I'm going to run this right blind. Not sure how far this is. This thing's a couple 100 yards. But there's a lot of stuff between here and there. There's four water entries, and you'll see 2 of them you can't see at all. And either can they until they get there to it. Now a lot of dogs, young dogs especially, you may get a no-go on a blind or something here too, because we're essentially we've run the first line, the lines are really, really tight right here. Now we'll do a blind up through the middle of this thing. So we've run these lines and they've been corrected and resent and all that. So a lot of times with these young dogs, you get a no-go on a blind, just because there's a lot of stuff in there, especially on a dog that has a conscience. Heel. A dog that has a conscience doesn't want to get back up in there, so you got to be really careful here and understand what they're thinking if you do get a no-go. Here, sit, dead bird, dead. Here, right there, sit, dead, sit, here. Back. See, he went left, away from, here. I'm gonna call him back and redo this. Heel. He's staying away from this line right here. He went left out of this thing. So let's just call back, heel, come here, sit, redo, sit. Back, much better. And I'm gonna stay real literal with my casting. Like we're training, so we're staying real literal, making them take the water. And at the end of this blind, there's no blind pole. I don't want to see a blind pole and just run into it. Because it's all mowed up back there, and they would see a blind pole from 20 yards. Good. There's one more piece of water. It's right there. So I'm gonna give him a light correction right there. That was a medium 1. Because he saw the water and he deviated away from it. It's just to his left. My left, his right. See right there. Good. That was a nice job. There's no blind pole there, so they can't see the blind pole. If there was a blind pole there, they would see that thing, and you wouldn't be able to get that really good finish to that blind. But I gave him a correction on a medium 1. When he got to that last piece of water, you could see him deviate on the video, deviate like this. So he deviated from the factor, so I gave him a light correction, and I put him back in the factor. This one here may be real weird for him. He's got to run really close to this truck. And we're gonna hug this down, and I may have to move right to see him. But if you see him leave weird here, that's why. I don't know how long I'm gonna run this blind today. If this doesn't go well with a couple dogs, I may scrap this blind just because it's running right at my truck, basically. Heel, here, sit, dead, sit. Back. And he's on that train around. Now you got to get off. Go through these cattails. Back. He's a little bit right. He's thinking his way through. Now I can't hardly see him. He's got to carry. I think he got up on the land. Here! There he is. Back! There he goes. This is really tight. I just lost him left just a little bit in those cattails. Now he's gonna have to swim down. He's a little bit right. I'm gonna bump him in. Well, he's got it figured out, I think. It's in between those you can see the orange ribbon back there. He's just got to get left of those cattails, right of that little other grass, and he's got to poke up in there. There was no, I give no corrections there at all. He was just a little bit left behind these first patch of cattails. I just called him out of it. There he goes. That initial line, I think, would have been a lot better if that truck wasn't there. But that's okay. They got to learn how to deal with that too. So, not that big deal. He did a really good job. Got a nice correction over here. He recovered well, did a nice job on the rest of it. He wasn't, after he got that correction, he got a little bit vocal right there. He didn't get weird about any of the rest of the work. So that correction wasn't too bad on him. So when I said earlier, I was like hey, we're gonna stay real literal with our casting. Heel. Literal casting is basically, if you give the cast, if they take that angle cast and they get through all the factors, that cast will finish the blind for them. So if you want like a 20-degree cast, you give them a 20-degree cast. They take a 20-degree cast, fight the factors, get to the end of the blind. You don't give a 45 to get a 20. You see what I'm saying? Or you don't give an over to get a 45. You give the actual literal cast that if they take that cast, it finishes the blind. And we stay real literal in our training, real literal. And when they're younger, the casting's not as quite as literal. You may get a 45 to get a 30, but when they're younger, you want them to change direction and you're working on change direction. When they get more advanced like him, we start getting real literal with them. And the really advanced dogs were really literal, but he's getting pretty advanced, so he's staying real literal as well. But that's Ruger, he did a good job.